So what is net neutrality and why should you care about it? Net neutrality is one of the founding principles of the open internet, and it's the way the internet has always worked up to this point. And it basically means that all websites are created equal, whether you go to Google or Yahoo, Fox News, Al Jazeera, or the CBC, a big media company, or your own blog, all websites load at the same speed and quality. And the telecom companies that you pay to connect to the internet aren't allowed to mess with what you do or where you go online. With net neutrality, they can't discriminate, block, or slow down access to the stuff you want. They're just hands-off middlemen, because the network is neutral. As long as you follow a few basic rules, it just works. If that still seems kind of abstract, here's a few everyday examples. Because if you've ever used one of these, for example, you already know what a neutral network is. Because when you plug in that toaster, the electricity network doesn't ask you, well, what kind of toaster is it? Where was it made? Or what do you want to put in that toaster? Because if it's just plain old toast, we're going to make you wait 10 minutes. But if you want a Pop-Tart, well, we can toast that right away. It doesn't work like that because electricity in Canada is a neutral network. You just plug in whatever you want, and as long as it follows a few basic rules, it just works. And your electricity company can't cut deals to make some toasters or vacuum cleaners work better than others. It's a neutral network. The point is that neutral or open networks are not new. In fact, Canada runs on neutral networks. It's a cornerstone of how we manage infrastructure. And the Canadian government has laws, known as common carriage laws, that say when it comes to vital infrastructure like roads, electricity, or the telephone, everybody's stuff has to be treated equally.
The government, since the 16th century, have felt that certain parts of the economy, ports, canals, roads, trains, innkeepers, have to deal with all customers equally, that's important for the health of the country. And I think we have the same situation. The ports and canals of the 18th century are the internet in the 21st century.
The internet is the infrastructure of the 21st century, and the internet equivalent of common carriage or open networks is net neutrality. And up to now, whatever website, application, or device you plug into the network, just like that toaster, it just works. And that open architecture has been an engine for bottom-up innovation and made the internet the success that it is today. It means that if you're a blogger or a citizen journalist with a better story than the Globe and Mail or New York Times, you can compete on a level playing field and win. Unlike the old media, where a handful of large media companies mostly decide what the public sees or doesn't see. It's made it possible for citizen groups, NGOs, and activists to reach Canadians directly and get the word out with new forms of democratic participation. And net neutrality has been a boon for innovation and economic growth as well. It makes it easy for startups, entrepreneurs, and small businesses to compete on a level playing field with much larger, more well-established players, like a couple of geeks with a big idea working out of this garage in California, who in just 10 years have created a company that's now worth more than General Motors and Coca-Cola put together. So, who wants to get rid of net neutrality? The answer is a handful of big telecommunications companies in Canada and the United States who want to change the way the internet works. They're using new technologies that make it easier for them to tell what you're doing and where you're going online. And because most Canadians have only one or two choices for broadband services, they have a virtual monopoly over internet access in Canada. And they now say they want to use that power to make some stuff on the internet faster or easier to access than other stuff, and throttling or blocking stuff they don't like, making them gatekeepers. If they succeed, it may end the open internet as we now know it, and replace it with something that looks a lot more like cable TV, where a handful of large monopolies, like the big media companies that already own most of Canada's media, dominate the space. And it's already started happening in Canada.
Throttling is the practice of slowing down internet traffic. At least one major Canadian service provider does it, potentially making your computer crawl at a snail's pace.
Bell was caught throttling the connections of its customers and its competitors. TELUS was caught blocking access to websites during a labor dispute. Shaw has been caught blocking its competitors' products on the network. And Rogers has been caught restricting Canadians' downloads. All of these are early skirmishes in a larger battle over the future of the open internet in Canada. Like other countries around the world, we have to choose. Should we demand that our government protect the open internet and net neutrality? Or should we give more power and influence to the big telecommunications companies and allow them to regulate Canada's internet for us, replacing our open or neutral network with a more closed or gatekeeper network? Other countries around the world are facing a similar choice right now. The US is now moving towards protecting the open internet.
To seize this moment, we have to ensure free and full exchange of information. And that starts with an open internet. I will take a backseat to no one in my commitment to network neutrality. Because once providers start to privilege some applications or websites over others, then the smaller voices get squeezed out and we all lose. The internet is perhaps the most open network in history, and we have to keep it that way.
Saveournet.com, a U.S. coalition, has delivered over 1.6 million petitions to Congress, and America's new president and head of the FCC are both net neutrality supporters. Here in Canada, support for net neutrality is rapidly gaining momentum as well. Bell's internet throttling practices made national headlines. There was a rally on Parliament Hill, and groups like saveournet.ca have sent over 11,000 letters to Ottawa in support of net neutrality. And over 70 technology companies, including Google, Amazon, and Skype, have said that throttling and violating neutrality, quote, diminishes consumer choice, interferes with users' freedom of expression, and inhibits innovation. And all these efforts are starting to pay off. CRTC, Canada's media and communications watchdog, has launched a public inquiry into the traffic-shaping practices of Canada's internet service providers. And they're asking Canadians like you what they think about the future of Canada's open internet. Ultimately, this is a battle over the future of media, entrepreneurship, and freedom of speech in Canada. Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the World Wide Web, has said that if it wasn't for net neutrality, he wouldn't even have been able to invent the web in the first place. And Vint Cerf, co-inventor of the internet, has said that the internet's open architecture has always been designed to encourage what he calls permissionless innovation. The idea that you don't have to ask a monopoly or a gatekeeper for permission to innovate or do something different or better on the network. That's why it's crucial that internet lovers and innovators like you take action. So here's what you can do now. Let the CRTC know what you think. Take part in their public process, and you can use the tools at saveournet.ca to make it easier. Educate your MPs and political leaders. Many MPs in Ottawa are new to this issue and need help from constituents like you to explain what it's about and why it's important. And spread the word with friends and family. Hold your own open internet town hall meeting and use the internet to save Canada's open internet at saveournet.ca.